All right, hi folks. This is Mike Masuda here at Evergreen Valley College in San Jose, California. I am recording a tutorial for Excel spreadsheet. And this will also, I guess, be okay for the Google Sheets app as well. This is just solely for the students who have never worked with spreadsheets or are a little apprehensive on the use of these things in terms of an app. I've had students who've been doing calculations on paper over and over and over again, and this is for a calculus-based physics course. And I think at this point, they need to learn how to use a spreadsheet so that they can do their calculations a lot faster. It is a useful skill, right? Knowing how to use Excel in the real world. So this is just a bare bones sort of thing, but it just gives you an open door, right, to explore more things, more features in Excel. So let's jump into this. So what I'm going to do now is share my screen. And let me close this here and show my messy desktop there. I'm going to go open up Excel. All right. And we'll start with a blank book. So this is what you get when you first start. All right. Now, let's say, for example, we are collecting data associated with an object moving that has mass, and we're trying to calculate the kinetic energy of the object at any given time, all right? And so let's go ahead and put in some numbers here, all right? So the first column typically is used to title your data, all right? And so let's say, for example, we're getting measurements of time. And so what we'll typically do is write time and then parentheses the unit, right? In this case, it'll be seconds. And underneath here, we'll start putting in the data, all right? So the first one here, let's start off with 0, right? And so let's say the increment of time that is measured is every 10th of a second. You could import the data from Logger Pro if you wanted to and just populate it that way. Or you can just do it by hand if you want to. But, if you're trying to just fill in the things here for, let's say, 40 entries, right? Let's just try that. So it starts off at 0, and let's say it increments a 10th of a second each time. And so here we have 0, and then it has to go up to a 10th of a second. You could type 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, up to however much you need, one box at a time, or you can do it this way. All right, so I'm going to show you the quick and easy way to do this. So you hit the box, you hit equals, you see the equal sign there, and then you go to the previous box and click it, which was A2. Then you say plus, and then the increment that you're looking for, which is 0.1. Boom, right? So now this is 0.1. Now what I'm going to do with this is select it and then do a click and drag. So when you get down to the bottom right, you notice that the cursor here, which is typically a white plus symbol, becomes a black plus symbol, right? When that happens, you can take it and drag down like this. Let's take it down to 40 entries, just for the sake of this, right? So 40 entries, and we can see that it automatically fills in these things. It would have taken you a little bit more time to, I think, type these in by hand, right? I'm not using my mouse, so it's taking a little bit longer anyways, but that's okay, right? Now, we go all the way back up to the top here. So a couple things we could do with this, because you can see that it is not quite formatted for significant figures. What we can do here is take this whole thing, including 0, and drag down like this to highlight it. And then we do a right click, and we have a bunch of things showing up here. We go to Format Cells, and we want number, right? Number basically opens this little box over here to set the decimal places. So let's say in this case here, we want 2 decimal places for our numbers for the measurement of time, to measuring to the nearest 100th of a second, for example, all right? So we do that, and then we hit OK. Boom, everything's formatted properly. All right. Now, there's some other things you can do to clean up this stuff. If you click on the top thing here, it selects the entire column. And what you can do with that is you can make it centered, right? And so if you go to this thing here, it'll center everything down the column there. And if you want to change the color of the title, we can go over here to select the top one and then just select a different color. We'll use light green. Okay. So that's just one thing there, right? You can also do other things like take this whole thing here, and in case you want to print this out and you want everything boxed, right? You go over here and hit all borders. That way it'll give you the borders for these things when you print it out. All right. If you don't do that, then it won't have the borders around it. It'll just be the number. Okay. Let's just undo that for the moment and continue on. Now, let's say our measurements that we're taking are in centimeters for distance. As you can see, the title is longer than the column. So, but that's an easy fix. You click on this and then you go over to the side like that. And then you see that little tool that allows you to make it wider, right? You just click and drag and you can do that. Okay. And we can also select this and do a center so that all the numbers will be centered down the center of the column there. So we have that distance in centimeters. And let's say the first one is 0. And it increases, let's say, not in a linear fashion, but let's say this thing increases with a small factor with each distance here, right? Here, let's do this. Okay, so let's say distance is equal to, for this thing, it increments from 0, and you add 0.5 to this, all right? And let's say, ooh, how can we do that? Oh, yeah, let's do this. So let's say the thing increments, increments such that is the previous number squared plus 0.5. Okay, so this will give us some some number here, right? So you hit that, it becomes 0.5, but it won't be 0.5 every single time. It will increment up pretty quickly to be a bigger number. All right, and so we end up with a fairly large set of numbers there, right? Maybe this is too much. Okay, it looks like this thing is exceeding the values here way too high. So we should probably not do this. All right, so let's undo this. And let's pick something a little bit easier. Okay, so for the moment, let's just pick this B2 plus 0.5, and we'll use that as our increment here for our data, right? So we have that, and then we'll format this thing. And let's say for this case here, we want number, and we'll do it to 3 places there. Hit OK, and boom. Okay, we should do this one too. So we're going to hit that and format this one to 3 places, just for the sake of making it look pretty. We do that, hit OK. There we go, right? And then we can title this thing distance, and we can change the color to orange just for the heck of it, right? So now these things are set it that way. Now, let's say the next column here, we want to convert it into meters. Again, widening the column here so that it accommodates the title. Let's change the color of this thing to orange if we wanted to. You can make any of the things any color you want, all right? But we'll just say that this is the case here. So how do we convert from centimeters to meters? All right, so you take this, hit equals, you go over here and select the previous one. And since in centimeters, you want to convert to meters, you divide by 100, right? So boom, you do that. And then select the first one and then drag down using the bottom right corner again. There we go. All right. So now everything in this column is in meters. We format this. We go to number. Let's say we had it to 3 places, so let's select 3 places. There we go. And let's center this whole thing. Center the whole thing so the title's also centered. So now we have some nice clear looking data here associated with this. Now, let's say the next column we want to do is speed. All right, we're going to calculate the speed of this thing. Okay, so the speed we'll say is in meters per second. And again, widening the column to accommodate the title. And let's say the entire column here, we want to center this. Okay, so we do that initially, right? Now, the speed is going to be distance divided by time. So let's go ahead and do this over here. So we'll hit equals, and then distance in meters, and then divide by the time for that interval there, right? Then we hit enter. Now, the first term here is, it says divide by 0. It'll do this as a warning because obviously you're taking distance, which is 0, divided by time, which is 0. So you're going to end up with a weird undefined value there, all right? But let's go ahead and take this and continue downwards this way, all right? We don't have to use the first data point. because it is undefined. But as you can see, the rest of the numbers are well defined because you're taking a distance and dividing by a non-zero time, right? So you end up with these values here, 0.05. This means that it is a constant speed, as you see here, right? Now, let's go ahead and title this some other, or with some other color there, right? So now what do we do with this? Okay, well, we got the speed of this thing, and we say, let's say we want to calculate the kinetic energy. All right, now to get the kinetic energy, let me go ahead and put over here mass, all right, in kilograms, and we'll indicate that the color of this box here, this box, is a different color. We'll say red. All right. Now, the mass of the thing, let's say, is 1.054 kilograms. All right, just for the sake of this. You can center this if you want to. You don't have to. All right. We'll center this. Now, how do we do the calculation using this mass? So here's what we do. Now, one way that people do this is by putting the mass down an entire column here. You could do that. I mean, you can just take this thing here and just drag, it'll give you the same number, right? Well, let's not do that. Let's try to make this a little bit more elegant looking. So we want to get the kinetic energy. So the kinetic energy of the system in joules, right? So let's do that. We'll highlight this thing, center it, and let's give the title here a different color. We'll say, I don't know, yellow. All right. So kinetic energy in joules. The first one we're not going to do anything with because it's undefined, but the second one we could start with here, right? At time 0.10, we can get the kinetic energy for that. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. So the formula for kinetic energy, if you remember, is 1/2 mv squared. Okay, so we hit equals, and then 1/2, which is going to be 0.5, and then times the mass, which is this thing here. So you could conceive of just type in 1.054 if you wanted to, all right? Or you can do something clever like this. You select it, and it's K2, right? But we want that box to be fixed. In other words, as it does the calculations downwards, we don't want this box to continue downwards also. It's just going to give us a bunch of blanks, right? So you don't want that. So here's what we do. Oops. So we go over here to the formula, we click on the formula, and we fix this using a dollar sign, right, after the K, and fix it with a dollar sign after the 2. And what this will do is it will fix that the mass to be whatever's in this box K2, right? The dollar signs fix the location of that, in other words, all right? So it's 1/2 m, and then we multiply this by the speed, which was this, right, 0.05, squared, right? When you do square, you basically hit the caret, this thing here, which is the, I guess, shift 6, right? It'll give you that caret, and then you hit 2 to square it. All right. So what this will do is it'll do the calculation for you. Boom, right? It gives you the calculation in joules, right? And so you did it for one, but let's say you had 40 other entries here, like we do here. To do this by hand would be quite tedious, right? Especially if all the math, if all the distances are different, and all the times are different, and the speeds are all different. Okay, that would be a nightmare, right? You have to sit there for 30 minutes doing calculations for every single one. But look at this, we were able to do this fairly quickly. Okay. Now, this is just one example, okay? To be able to enter in the formula into the box to do the calculations automatically for you is an incredibly useful tool, all right, for this. We can do other things as well. I mean, let's just say, for example, we have numbers over here. How do we do this? Yeah, so let's say over here, we have a set of, I don't know, numbers, okay, value. So I'll just say value. Okay, I'm going to come up with some random numbers over here, 2.4, 2.6, 1.7, 1.8, and 1.5. Okay, so these are 5 numbers here that I just happen to have just pulled out of my head here. I'm going to center this, and I'm going to color this one a different color. We'll use green again, just for the heck of it. Now, we want to get these numbers over here and do some manipulation with this, all right? So let's say, for example, we want to get the sum of all these things. You want to add all these things together, all right? So you can type in sum, and then parentheses, we select the range, close parentheses. What this will do is it'll calculate the total value of everything, right? You add up all these things here, and it gives you, brings back the value, all right, of the sum. So that's something you can do with that, right? That's kind of cool, right? You can also do this. You take this, um, equals, let's see if they can find the, I think it's AVG for average. Nope, average. There we go. Average, um, and then open parentheses, and then select these things here, and then close parentheses. I think this will do it. Nope, it doesn't do it. Sorry, my bad. I thought it would. Maybe you have to type in the whole thing average. I guess that's how you do it. Okay, so it'll take the whole thing here and it'll average out the numbers here, right? If you want it to more places, let's see if that we can do this here. Format cells, number, and we'll take it to 2 places and hit OK. So I guess, yeah, the average of all this stuff here is 2, and the sum is 10. So my bad. Okay, but we could conceivably add more if we wanted to. Let's say we have 0.6, 5.1, and we incorporate these things, right? And so what you want to do is, in this case here, change this M6 to M8, so it incorporates all of those things there, and it gives you the sum there. And then for this one here, we change this average from M2 to M8. Also, it'll give you the average of 2.24. Okay, so there's many different functions that you can play around with here. I mean, you can look online, Excel, Google Excel, and then look for the function that you want. It'll give it to you, right? There's also ways to use sines, cosines, and tangents if you want to, but read up on that before you start using those things, because I believe those are already just sort of like default to radians as opposed to degrees. So you have to do a fix there to clean that up to get it into a degrees if you want to do calculations with that. But it is fairly straightforward in terms of how useful this tool is, this app here, right? People use this for bookkeeping to keep track of numbers, expenditures, and income, and all that stuff, right? It's also used obviously for data collection and analysis. And if you wanted to, use something like this to graph, it's a breeze. All right. Now, I know these numbers here are not that great here, but let's say, for example, we wanted to put over here time, and let's say 0.1. And what we'll do is the next one here, we'll say equals the previous one plus 0.2, just for the sake of this, and then click and drag. Just coming up with some random numbers here. What's going on? There we go. You do that. So it's giving us some random numbers there. Let's go ahead and clean this up by centering it and doing this. Okay. So let's say, for example, we want to graph this. Okay. So we select this thing here, and what this will do is it gives us a means to graph these things. It says charts. Let's select a chart here. Typically in physics, we use a scatter chart, right? And so we can use this to plot the value of these things with respect to time or vice versa, right? And I believe this one here is doing it. Let's see, which way is it going? Yeah, so it's going time this way, and then the value is going this way, right? And so, yeah, so this is what we wanted, right, for this thing, because time usually is on the x-axis here. So you want time on the first column, and then whatever you're plotting it against that on the vertical in the next column there, and it'll plot it out for you, all right? Now, what you can also do with this is the following. So let's see. We could, let's change this chart type here. We want it to be a scatter plot. Okay, so we select scatter plot. What this will do is it'll get rid of the connect the dots, right? Typically, we want to do that for physics stuff. We don't want to connect the dots so much. We want just to get the dots there. Now, we select this, the data, and we do a right click. And what we can do is, let's see, where is it? Oh, it disappeared. Here we go. So you do a right click and it says add trend line, right? So if we wanted to, we could find the overall trend of the data. It doesn't go through the data points themselves, but it's looking for, the overall trend of the data as you see it, right? And so this line here, if it were a linear response, for let's say something that you're trying to figure out, then you would use the linear, right? But not all things are going to be linear. Some things will be exponential or logarithmic or whatever, depending on what the predicted formula is, right? And so if you think it's going to be logarithmic or exponential, you would choose the appropriate thing there, right? So let's just say for our sake here that it is linear, all right? So we select linear for this one, and we want to make sure that this equation for this line here, is on the display, all right? So there it is. So you can take this and move it over this way so it's not in the way. But this gives you the y is equal to mx plus b of the line that you plotted. And so using this 0.964 that is here, that'll be the slope of this line. All right. And so using that, let's say you're plotting, distance divided by distance with respect to time. This would basically give you the average speed, right? The overall trend line giving you the average speed. So it is a useful tool, right? If you're using Logger Pro and you're trying to fit a curve onto it to get a formula, you can do that, all right, using this thing. You can also, fit polynomials and such so it fits the curve a little bit better, right? And so it's very powerful in that respect to get the formula to come out this way. And then using that formula, as you know, you can use that to with your skills in integration calculus, right? To be able to figure out, let's say, the area under the curve if you're trying to do work or whatever, right? And so that kind of stuff will be kind of a useful tool for you along the way here. So I think I'll stop here and I have to get ready for the class here in a few minutes. So I hope this has been helpful for those of you who have been struggling with just trying to do calculations on paper. This is going to be just sort of a you know, like a light bulb in your head going, oh my God, I've been doing it the hard way, all this time. This makes your life a lot easier. Graphing things as well will be a lot easier with this app as well. Okay. So good luck with this. If you've already known about this stuff, then don't worry about this, right? This is not meant for the folks who already know how to use Excel, but for the folks who've never had any experience using spreadsheets at all, this is, an eye opener, right? It at least opens the door to bigger and better things involving spreadsheets. Okay, that's what it's used for. Okay. Many other uses, of course, but in our class in the 7 series, you'll be using something like this to be able to tabulate your data and analyze things, in Excel and such. Okay, so good luck with that, and let's see. I hope this has been helpful. All right. Bye, everybody.